Husband got reprimanded at work for making a coworker uncomfortable, and somehow this has set him off the deep end. We met in college, got married in our mid-20s, and we're raising 2 children. He's hardworking, loving, and has a healthy and large circle of friends and family who think of the world of him. So I cannot overemphasize how caught off guard I am by the last few months. One of my close friends has a friend who works in the same company and reached out to me, basically recapped an incident in November. Maya is a 23-year-old customer rep that had been working for a few months in their company, and in November went to HR to file a complaint over my husband, oogling at her and making her feel uncomfortable. He called her Pocahontas in the break room. Another coworker, an older, more established person in the company, vouched for the disrespectful way my husband spoke and acted towards her and how she had to tell my husband off. He got reprimanded and written up. When I asked him, he didn't deny what happened and instantly assured me his job wasn't in any real danger and how I know the boss loves him and they go way back. I told him it wasn't about that, and it's about what possessed him to harass a girl, and he excused it by saying his eyes wandered, and he didn't mean to offend her when he nicknamed her. I called BS on that and told him he didn't even sound sorry. He told me he was, but that he learned from it and it wouldn't happen again. My friend later told me Maya was freaked out over a very expensive anonymous set of gifts that was sent to her apartment and how there was no proof but that Maya knew it came from my husband. And that during work, my husband didn't cross any lines but that the poor girl still felt icked out whenever she had to share a room with him. My friend told me I only had her word to go on, but that she herself caught glimpses of my husband checking out Maya during lunch or meetings, and only Maya got those type of stares from him. I hated having to do this, but I checked my husband's bank accounts and his cell phone to maybe find a purchase order. Nothing out of order except for a major transfer to one of his friends, almost 8K. I confronted him and he said his friend just needed some help, and how I know. Said friend is in a tight bind and how he has kids and Christmas was coming up. I couldn't argue and had to swallow my worries and bad feelings because he kept reassuring me how everything was fine at work. In January, Maya reported him to HR again, and this time he told me the same day, likely because he knew I'd find out otherwise. And he was acting like a victim, saying Maya would act like his friend one moment and then get him in trouble the next. I told him to stop lying, to stop making excuses, and to stop insulting my intelligence. I screamed at him to get out of the house and stay gone. Then it's like his brain broke, or I don't know, the real him came out maybe. He went on this demented rant about how I don't have to worry, that I'm his wife, the mother of his children, how everything is airtight and what's his is mine, and how his attraction to Maya was just animalistic, and how someone be like her would never threaten my place. I was stupefied as I heard my husband go off on this sick tangent, including referring to this poor girl using slurs. I kicked him out and couldn't even stand to look at him for 2 weeks. A day after he tried taking it back, saying he was stressed and felt like everybody was attacking him, but I couldn't stand to speak with him, much less look at him. He promised to work on himself and uses and said we should go to couples therapy when I'm ready, and in the meantime, he'll give me my distance. I told him he needs to see a therapist by himself, and he didn't argue back at all. He even confessed that he did send Maya that anonymous expensive gift and had his friend put in the order. It's been 3 weeks, he's gone on 2 sessions with a therapist, and we're scheduled for our first session of couples therapy at the end of February. Thus far he's shown he's willing to put in the work to get better, but how do you get better from that? Is there even a point to couples therapy? I feel so lost. I don't recognize the person I married, but I also don't want to break up our family if there's a chance he can get reformed. Your husband's entitled behavior towards the young woman is a red flag and shows he feels justified in treating her poorly because of his connections. It's concerning that he still thinks you're in competition with her rather than being disgusted by his actions and reckless behavior in the workplace. This may not be the first time he's harassed someone like this, and considering the amount of money involved, it's clear there are bigger issues at play here. It's time for him to address his entitlement and misogyny instead of playing the victim. Am I the antagonist for thinking fair isn't necessarily the same for our twins? More like are we the assholes, as my wife somewhat agrees with me, but is swayed by mother-in-law. Basically, my wife and I, 36F and 38 just to be clear, both women, are struggling with how to handle a delicate situation with our daughters, both 9th. I'll call them Nova and Luna, fake names. The girls have been dancing for years, and a couple of years ago we let them start competitions. The way their studio works, there is a general open team, where parents pay a fee for specialized competition choreography, extra classes dedicated to practice, entry fees, etc., and an elite team, which is audition only. This team operates on scholarship, so certain class competition private class fees are waived, although there are minimum studio requirements for both teams. You can see where this is going. Both girls auditioned last summer. Nova made the team, Luna did not. While I was heartbroken for Luna, I also don't think it's the worst thing for a child to be disappointed. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. Obviously it's hard for her, but realistically there will be many times that something similar happens to both girls over the course of their lives. As with any set of siblings, we all move at our own pace and have our moments in the sun, so to speak, and learning to celebrate each other's success, even when you're a little jealous, is a good life lesson. Nova has been working with her elite team for a couple of months now, and Luna is still upset she's on the general open team. My mother-in-law has started to get vocal with my wife and I that pulling Nova from her team is the only fair way to handle things. But to me, and to an extent, my wife, it seems the opposite of fair to take something away from Nova to spare Luna's feelings. For what it's worth, we've needed to set boundaries with mother-in-law before for treating the girls as twinsons rather than two children, and I feel this scenario is something of an extension of that. Luna also insists that it's only fair that her sister give up her spot since they can't be together. Nova would love her sister to be a part of the team, but doesn't want to quit no matter what. She's proud to have been chosen. It seems like a terrible precedent to set. If Luna gets a place at a better university, would we make her reject it to spare her sister's feelings? If Nova is first to find a partner, does she have to end it if Luna is single? Unfortunately, my wife is starting to crumble under the weight of her mother's criticism, and wondering if we should pull Nova and let both girls audition again in the summer. I feel like it's vital we don't, and allow each girl to take the opportunities they earn. To be clear, if the roles were reversed, I'd want Luna to keep her place also. So, am I the asshole? Your mother-in-law needs to stay in her own lane. It's ridiculous to punish Nova to appease Luna's jealousy. They are two different people and should be allowed to excel in different areas. Switching Luna to another activity that she would enjoy would be a better solution. Life ain't fair, and punishing one sibling to make it fair would be unfair. Just imagine if Scarlett Johansson's parents made her stop being in movies because her twin wasn't also super famous successful. Am I the antagonist for calling my boyfriend selfish for not giving me his seat? I am 6 months pregnant with my boyfriend and my first baby. I have had a few complications. I am now on a blood pressure pill, which has made me more exhausted than usual. During Mardi Gras season, my boyfriend and I have been attending parades with friends the past month. I recently had a talk with my boyfriend and told him that I needed a break from parades because it was taking a pretty heavy toll on me. I was in a lot of physical pain from all the walking and ended up catching COVID and had to quarantine. Mardi Gras weekend was this past weekend, and my boyfriend asked me if I would go to parades with him. I agreed to one because I have a friend that lives on the parade route and allowed us to watch the parade at her house. He still wanted to go to parades for the rest of the weekend though, and told me that if I didn't go, then he wouldn't be able to go since his car isn't safe to drive in the city and he wanted to drink. After some convincing, I agreed only if we bring chairs for me to sit in. On the day of the parade, I went to pack both chairs, but he told me to only pack one since he'd be standing most of the time. We were rushing out the house and ended up getting to the parade later than we planned, so we had to park further away from where we were meeting friends. Ultimately, we ended up walking 11 blocks to meet them. Halfway through the walk, I had to use the restroom and couldn't hold it anymore. My boyfriend was upset with me because we were already running late, and for the rest of the walk gave me the silent treatment. When we finally got to the spot, I was completely out of breath, overheated, and my feet were on fire. He set up our chair and then sat down in it. I asked him if I could sit down and he told me to just give him a minute. I was almost in tears at this point and visibly upset, so this kind stranger who was set up a little bit further down the route ended up asking if I wanted to use one of his seats. I thanked him and we had a nice but short conversation about my pregnancy. Once we got home, I had a conversation with my boyfriend about how I felt, that he didn't care that I was pregnant and should have given up the seat for me. I also said that it was sad that a stranger had to give up his seat for a woman he didn't know, but it shows that it's common courtesy to do so for pregnant women. He told me that he made the same walk as me and his feet also hurt, and that the man didn't even know that I was pregnant. I then lashed out and called him selfish and a horrible boyfriend. After I said that, his entire mood changed and we had a very long talk about how his medication has changed the way he feels about other people, and that I need to loosen up and stop being so harsh on him. I'm worried that I was too harsh on him by calling him selfish, and that I'm expecting too much special treatment because I'm pregnant. I don't know how I feel about this. Am I the asshole here? You better get used to being treated this way even after the baby is born. Your boyfriend is an asshole, and your requests are not in any way inappropriate. Pregnancy is a time in your life where everyone around you should be giving you extra consideration. If the father of this child can't do that, you might want to reconsider staying with him. You are making another human as a result of having had sex with him. Gestation is very hard work, at all stages. For goodness sake, don't have any more kids with a dude who won't step up. Am I the antagonist for being mad my coworker told everyone at work about my health concerns? I, a 31-year-old female, recently had a pregnancy scare with my boyfriend. We did home tests that came back negative and also did blood tests that were negative. However, I was more than a month past my period due date. We thought it must be stress and lack of sleep, but because of my age and health habits, we decided for me to see an OB gynecologist to make sure it really was just stress and to see if I'm still okay down there. Working in a hospital, I know a lot of possible reasons my period stopped despite me not being pregnant. I told my best friend roommate, who is 30, about my plan. She dismissed it as just stress but didn't discourage me from seeing a doctor. I expressly told her not to tell a soul, not even our 38-year-old coworker roommate. I chose an OB gynecologist at a private clinic for privacy, even though I could have done all medical workup checkups at my own hospital with employee discount and other perks that would benefit me. But I didn't want other people at work to know since I didn't understand what was going on with me, myself. I was scared. Day of the appointment, I told my 38-year-old coworker that I had an errand to do and would be back soon. When I returned, she was sitting with our other coworkers who I'm not close with, some of whom are notorious for spreading gossip and forming unwelcome and unkind opinions about others at work. She put me on the spot in a way that would embarrass and force me to answer in front of everyone, all of them listening intently, which was very obvious. I denied it, but she kept pressing and gave more details in the form of questions, details of which I only told my best friend and not her. I walked away then cried in the bathroom because I felt violated and embarrassed. My best friend confirmed in a text that she may have mentioned my plan with the 38-year-old coworker while I wasn't home. I continued to work as if nothing was wrong. Nobody asked me anything else. By the end of my shift, I left and the 38-year-old coworker stayed for overtime work. I didn't return home. My best friend blew up my phone asking me where I was while I sat out for 8 hours in a cafe that's open until late. I waited until she left for her own shift 2 hours early, then went inside, packed my stuff, and stayed in my room all night. 2 hours later, the 38-year-old coworker came home and went to bed. By 5 a.m. I was out the door to go to my boyfriend's house for the weekend. The next day, another coworker who was 27 told me that while I was at the clinic and when my best friend and the 38-year-old coworker met up, they were all discussing me, my concerns, my sex life, their speculations, and opinions. They didn't see why I made it such a big deal since I tested negative anyway. This is ironic since we're all healthcare workers. They even laughed about it and said that I'm paranoid and overreacted. The 27-year-old coworker was mad and agrees I have a right to my medical privacy since I went out of my way to make sure everything was private even though it cost me more money. Am I the antagonist for being mad my private health concerns were broadcasted and discussed without my consent? You have a right to be angry about the breach of medical privacy. It's incredibly unprofessional and creates a hostile work environment. I would recommend reporting it to HR immediately. I live my life by HIPAA, and even my best friend's medical issues are kept confidential. These people are awful and you should cut them off. I hope your health issue gets resolved soon. Am I the antagonist for telling my mom I'm grown now and she to not intervene when I say no? I'm feeling pretty conflicted about my actions here, so please tell me if I was totally awful. My bio father walked out when I was a newborn and left my mom to raise me, 24, alone. I was 3 when my mom met the man I call my dad, and they became a couple. I was 4 when they got married officially. My dad had 3 daughters with his late wife who were 8, 9, and 10. My stepsisters were never close to me, but they were never awful either. They were older, which was a big part of it, I imagine. But they also had bonding experiences I didn't have with them, like the loss of a mom and big changes in their life when my mom and I moved in with them. I believe they merely tolerated me but never grew to care for me or like me. Did it hurt? Yes. Did I wish we could be close? Yes. Did I cry over it? Sometimes, when I was a lot younger. I did spend some time adoring the cool older sisters. But by the time I hit my mid-teens, I was old enough to realize they were not my sisters, and I would never be close to them in the way I wanted to be. And I grew to accept it. They were civil and didn't say mean things to me, so that's just how it was. I never said anything to my parents because I didn't want them to be forced to include me. I never wanted to be a burden or someone that was invited along because they had to. We don't really have anything to do with each other as adults. I have seen them twice in 6 years, and both those times were a family party thrown by someone on Dad's side. The oldest of my stepsisters is getting married, and she asked her sisters to be her bridesmaids. My mom got the wrong idea and assumed I would be asked as well, as their younger sister. Why she thought this I don't know, but I told her I wasn't asked and she was upset. She asked me how I was and I said I had not expected to be asked. We're not close and we don't keep in touch with each other. My mom told me she'd speak to them and I told her not to. She said they are publicly shunning me as a sister. I told her I was never their sister and that was clear even when I was a kid. I told her I did not want her to say anything and to let them do what they want. My mom didn't listen and confronted them over it, called them out for excluding me and told them I should be asked. Dad had to tell her it was his daughter's choice. But Mom made such a fuss that it created tension. And because of that, the whole thing got around to different family members and I was mad at Mom. She told me she did it for me and I should be glad she was fighting for me. I told her I didn't ask her to, that I'm grown now and I do not need her fighting my battles for me. I told her not to interfere when I say no. Mom said I should appreciate that she's willing to have my back and asked how I could turn on her when she was defending me. Am I the a-hole in this scenario? It seems like your mom is upset that she didn't take the steps to grow the sibling relationship when everyone was young, and she's getting rudely reminded of that failure. Getting involved when you specifically asked her not to, and getting mad when you take issue with that is so annoying and definitely makes her the asshole in this situation. Have you reached out to your stepsisters to let them know this didn't come from you? As an adult, setting healthy boundaries with your parents is important. I bet your mom didn't realize how you and your stepsisters weren't close at all and panicked, thinking it would make her look bad as a parent if you weren't involved with the wedding. She wasn't really thinking about you. She was thinking about her and how it made her look. Am I the antagonist if I allow my sister and nephew to become homeless? My sister Marie and I, Joseph, don't have much of a relationship. We had an abusive father who favored her because she was a girl. He assumed she'd be a mother and wife and a husband would be a provider, and I was told I was too fat, stupid and lazy to be a good provider. But that's on Dad. Marie got married, had 3 kids. She sat around and did nothing. No work, no housework, and as much as I hate knowing this, nothing between her and her now ex. You can understand why he's the ex, who pays alimony. Marie currently lives with her oldest James. He gets minimum wage jobs, often part-time, and often loses them because he fails to show up. He's also alienated a lot of people because he's said a lot of homophobic stuff thinking he's being funny. He's not. There are 2 other kids, Beth, who is a teacher in another state and does not speak to her brother and is low contact with Marie and didn't want them to know where she lived, and Sam, who lives with her. Both of them have had severe depression, but Beth is functioning, works and cares for her younger brother, who at this point is just living off the sister. As an aside, Beth is gay, Sam is trans, so you can understand why neither speak to James. They're about to get evicted. They have tried local charities, but they've used them too many times. My wife and I gave her and her ex about $5,000 when they were still married to help them avoid losing the home. It helped for a few months. We loaned her $3,000 more a few years later, telling her it was a loan this time. We never got it back. Not surprised. We have helped James on occasion. We did loan him $2,000, which he pays back small amounts here or there, but very low and often not at all. My wife hates my sister, who is herself very toxic. I could go into reason, but trust me, I'd be here forever. We live in another state. Our kids have moved out. One is doing very well for herself. The other is employed but might move back in because she's living with a roommate and it's not worked out, and she can't afford her own place, but she works full-time and is responsible. We have had non-bio kids live with us, and currently we have foster kids. Anyone living here has to be vetted by the agency, be fingerprinted and pass a background check. Probably both would, but who knows. However, my foster son is autistic and doesn't do well with strangers. He's never met them. My foster daughter is bi and won't take to James. Plus, if they move in, we're stuck with them. We're racking our brains trying to figure out a way to help, but we can't afford to send more money and refuse to do so for my sister. Would I be the a-hole if we allow them to become homeless? You can only really help them if they want to be helped. Giving them money just delays the results. Until they change their attitudes and behavior, you can't help them. You are not allowing them to be homeless. They are both adults who may be homeless due to their own life choices. You are not responsible for them. You and your wife have helped financially more than once. If you continue helping them with money, or worse, let them into your home, this will be your life. You will have 2 toxic people mooching off you and your spouse, draining you financially and mentally. They are not unable to work. They choose not to be self-sufficient and count on guilting others to take care of them. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.